Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another session of Weekly Roundup. In Weekly Roundup, we cover the most important news of the last week. My name is Anuj, and I will be taking today's session. In today's session, we will be covering 5 main news and 7 quick update and 1 place in news. In the main news, we will be covering 5 news, and along with these 5 news, we will be also covering the PYQs both from the prelims as well as from the mains perspective. The first news is about the revised wholesale price index, as DPIIT will release the revised WPI series and the new producer price indices. Then the next news is about the El Nino, as World Meteorological Organization have warned that the El Nino may intensify the monsoon disruption. So we will be knowing about the connection between El Nino and the Indian monsoon. Then the next news is about the index of industrial production, and it is there in the news because of the revision in its base year. Then the next news is about the ecological importance of the Aravalli Range, and the last main news is about the state's fiscal health, as the debt in the state is going on in the increasing direction. So these are the main news. After that, we will be covering about the Zimbabwe, and after that, we will be going through the quick updates in a brief. So these are the news that we will be covering in the today's session. Let us start the session with the first main news. First main news is about the wholesale price index, and the context here is that the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade will release the revised wholesale price index on 15th of June. And along with that, the new producer price index will be also released. For the next 5 years, both WPI and PPI will be released by the government, and after 5 years, only the PPI indexes will be released by the government. In this news, we will be knowing about WPI, that is wholesale price index, PPI, that is producer price index, what is the difference between them, and why government is moving from WPI to PPI. So this is a brief overview about this news, and it is related to paper 3, where syllabus talks about economic development. So let us start and deep dive into this news. First of all, before knowing about the development, let us discuss about 3 indices, that is CPI, WPI and PPI. CPI is consumer price index, wholesale price index is WPI, and producer price index is PPI. From now, in this news, we will be only using CPI, WPI and PPI. So CPI is from the point of view of the customers. Like if you go to the shop and buy something, you will get the price of the CPI, consumer price index. Basically, these indexes are used to know about inflation. Its price is increasing or price is decreasing over a period of time. So the point of view in CPI is of the customer, whereas the point of view in WPI and PPI is of producer. Here also producer. Then one of the major difference is that CPI include the goods as well as the services, because if you are a customer, you will be taking the services, you will be also taking the goods. But in WPI, there is only goods and services are not there. In PPI, there is goods as well as there are services. Then here in CPI, taxes are also there. That means if you are buying a product, it will also include the GST. Whereas in WPI, GST is excluded, and in PPI, in input PPI, the GST is included or the taxes are included, whereas in the output PPI, taxes are not included. That we will be learning in the coming slide, don't worry about that. Then CPI is published by Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, whereas WPI and PPI will be published by the Ministry of Commerce. So these are the major difference between CPI, WPI and PPI. So this difference is very important to understand this news. Now let us understand about the development. So the government has decided to gradually phase out the wholesale price index over the next 5 years and replace it with comprehensive producer price index system. So this is the development here. And now let us understand in detail what are the changes made in the wholesale price index and why we are moving towards the producer price index. First, let us understand about the wholesale price index. So you might have heard whenever you think of buying grocery कि ये सामान wholesale की दुकान से ले लेते हैं. But there is nothing like wholesale की दुकान. That is only between wholesale to the point where the shopkeeper are buying. No direct customer can go to the wholesale shop. Okay, that is a concept of wholesale. And what is wholesale price index? It is basically measure of the average change of prices of a fixed set of goods at the first point of the bulk sale in the commercial transactions. So when commercial transaction takes place at the first place in a bulk of a fixed set of good, it is known as wholesale price index, and it is released by Office of Economic Advisor under the DPIIT, that is under Ministry of Commerce and Industry. We have learned in the last slide that CPI is under the Ministry of MOSPI. Okay. Then what are the key changes in the revised series of the WPI that we are going to release for the next 5 years? First of all, there is a revision in the base year. So previously we were using the base year of 2011 and 12, and now we will be using the base year of 2022 and 23 because we want to actually calculate the correct prices and inflation that is happening at the present time. So that's why government from time to time changes the base year. When the WPI was released for the first time in 1942, the base year used was 1939, and then it was revised again and again, and now government has revised it again, and now the base year will be 2022 and 23. There is expansion in the coverage. So item increased from 697 to 957. So there are basically 3 categories in the WPI. What are those 3 categories? One is primary articles. Second is fuel and power. And third is manufactured products. Highest weight is given to the manufactured product in WPI, and lowest weight is given to the fuel and the power. Please be very thorough with all these because these become very important for your next year prelims as well as for this year mains examination. So WPI is categorized into the 3 categories of goods such as primary articles, second fuels and power, and third is manufacturing product. Now the energy basket rationalization have taken place. So solar, wind and nuclear energy are added under the electricity, which is under the fuel and power, because government is focusing a lot on the renewable energy, and here the solar, wind and nuclear energy is clean energy, not a renewable energy. So these energy are included under electricity, and electricity is there under fuel and power in the WPI basket. Then crude petroleum and natural gas has shifted to fuel and power. So previously the crude petroleum and natural gas was there in the primary articles, but now they have been shifted to fuel and power category. Then what is the significance of the changes? So basically the base year revision or this revision in the expansion or the changes in the crude oil and natural gas specification is to ensure more realistic assessment of the inflationary trends. If we will be knowing about better data and we will be knowing about each and every data, then we will be able to calculate in a more precise and correct way. Now, let us move forward and understand about the producer price indices. So here, suppose there is a producer. Producer is a person which manufacture. So here we take an example of crude oil. Crude oil is coming to the producer and he or she is producing petroleum or diesel, whatever it may be. So he or she is producing petrol or diesel from the crude oil. Suppose there is the calculation of inflation from the point of WPI. WPI will be checking the rate, increase in the rate in the crude oil, also in the changes in the prices of petrol or diesel. That will lead to double counting. That was one of the aspects of the WPI that PPI will overcome. Please listen to it very carefully again. In WPI, there was a issue of double counting, and how it was: suppose a crude oil is going to producer and that is producing petrol or diesel, we were calculating the price increase in the crude oil as well as in the price increase of petrol and diesel. That was leading to the double counting in WPI. Here in the producer price index, this difficulty or this shortcoming of WPI will be overcome. Now let us understand about the producer price index. So it measures the average change in the price a producer receives for his goods and services sold in the domestic market or the export. And it is divided into basically three categories. One is output PPI, that is output PPI what producer get after selling the product. Here the net taxes will be removed. So it is more or less similar to WPI. That was the statement from the government, that the WPI is nothing but similar to the output PPI. But don't get confused. Basically, output PPI means what a producer get after selling of his product, removing the taxes from that. Then there is input PPI. What all raw material or the prices a producer is paying, that is input PPI, and it includes the taxes. Okay. Then there is service PPI as well. Now government will release the service PPI for the 7 services, and later on the other services will be added in this. So this is about the producer price index. Now let us understand that why government is replacing WPI with the PPI. So first of all, it is a global best practice and it's aligned with the India's inflation measurement with the advanced economics, and it was also recommended by the IMF. Then it will have a broader coverage. It will capture the input cost, it will capture the output cost, it will capture the services price, which will provide a more comprehensive inflation picture than the WPI that we have seen in the last slide, that it will capture the input PPI, it will capture the output PPI, and it will also capture the service PPI or the service inflation. And lastly, it will lead to better cost analysis because it enable assessment of input cost pressure and their pass through to the output prices. That we have seen in the last slide, that there is a producer and he is taking input from the market and he is releasing products into the market. So it will lead to better assessment that where is the inflation is increasing. Is it because due to the input cost, or is it because of the margin of the producer? So that is the reason that we are moving towards the PPI. But for the next 5 years, both WPI and PPI will be released by the government, and after 5 years, only PPI will be released. Now let us discuss the PYQs related to this news. First PYQ is from the prelims examination of 2020, and it is a very easy PYQ. So please write down its answer in the comment section. I will read out the question for you. So the question is, consider the following statement. First, the weightage of food in consumer price index is higher than that in the wholesale price index. Statement 2, the WPI does not capture changes in the prices of services which CPI does, that we have discussed in the first slide itself. Then third, the Reserve Bank of India has now adopted WPI as its key measure for inflation and to decide on changing the key policy rate. The RBI still uses the CPI only. It does not use WPI because it does not contain the service aspect. So please write down its answer in the comment section. One more PYQ from the mains examination, and it is not a direct question, but it is somewhat indirect question. So in the year 2021, there was a question. Question was, explain the difference between computing methodology of India's gross domestic product before the year 2015 and after the year 2015. So basically they are asking about changes in the methodologies. So similarly, they can also ask about the difference between WPI and CPI, how PPI is better than WPI. That all we have discussed in this news. So with this, we have completed the first news. Let us move to the next main news. And the next main news is about the El Nino. If you are reading newspaper, you might be reading about El Nino and Super El Nino. And the context here is that the World Meteorological Organization have warned that the El Nino may intensify the monsoon disruption. In this news, we will be learning about El Nino, La Nina, how does they impact climate globally, and also what is their impact on India. It is related to paper 1, where syllabus talks about the important geophysical phenomena. Let us discuss this news and understand in detail about the El Nino. First of all, the development is that the World Meteorological Organization has warned of an 80% probability of El Nino developing in the coming months. So they are warning about development of El Nino, and if El Nino will be developed, there will be disruption in the Indian monsoon, and if there will be disruption in the Indian monsoon, there will be disruption to the agriculture output. And you might be aware that most of the Indians are dependent on the agriculture for survival. It will impact most of the Indian citizens. So that is the concern here. Before understanding about the El Nino, La Nina and their impact on India and on the globe, let us first understand about the El Nino Southern Oscillation. So El Nino and La Nina are the opposite phases of the El Nino Southern Oscillation. By the name Southern, you might understand that Southern here means the Southern Hemisphere. And oscillation here means the change of the water, hot and cold water. So that is the basic meaning of ENSO. So southern oscillation is a coherent interannual fluctuation of atmospheric pressure over the tropical Indo-Pacific region. Okay, it is a line given here. You will be very clear with this line in the next slide. Okay, let us understand in detail what is El Nino and what is La Nina. Okay, so El Nino means the little boy in Spanish and La Nina means the little girl in Spanish. And if you see the world map, so in a normal year, this is the equator, and on equator there will be direct sunlight and it will become hot, and there will be trade winds here, northern trade wind and southern trade winds. They will shift the hot water towards this side and it will move like this, and here there will be cold water and there will be upwelling as well. Due to upwelling, there will be more nutrition and there will be more fishing. So this is a normal year. Here there is hot water, there is trade wind that is shifting it toward this side, and here there is hot current, and due to hot current there will be evaporation and there will be convection of the air, and here it will lead to rains in the coast of the Australia. Whereas here there will be more fishing but there will not be rains. So that is a normal year. In El Nino year, what happen is the trade winds become weak and this hot water get shifted towards the direction of the Americas, and the cold water comes here and it lead to rains in this region and drought in this season, in this region. So this is a normal year, this is an El Nino year, and when it reversed again, that is known as the La Nina year. Okay, please listen to it very carefully. Again, I am explaining it again. In a normal year, there will be direct sunlight on the equatorial region in the Pacific Ocean. That will lead to warming up of the water. That warm up water will be get shifted towards this side due to the trade winds, and there will be cold water here. Okay, and there will be rains here because when there is cold water, when there will be hot water, there will be evaporation that will lead to the rains here. And in the El Nino years, trade wind will become weak and this hot water will be shifted towards this side, and the reverser of El Nino is known as the La Nina. So that is written here, and this shifting is known as the ENSO, El Nino Southern Oscillation. That's why I said in the last slide that you will understand that line in the next slide. Okay, let us read about the El Nino. Characterized by the warming of the sea surface temperature in the central and the eastern equatorial region. Here, eastern equatorial region occurs every 2 to 7 years and typically lasts 9 to 12 months. Then the La Nina, it is characterized by the cooling of sea surface temperature in the central and the east central equatorial Pacific Ocean. So that is the opposite of the El Nino. Okay, I hope you might have understood about El Nino and La Nina. Now let us look at the impact of them. We have already talked about their impact, that El Nino impact, there will be wetter condition in the part of the southern South America and the southern United States, because there is hot water there, and there will be dry condition in the Australia and the part of the South Asia. Okay, and it will also lead to weaken upwelling, as there is rise or there is hot water in the coast of Peru, which will reduce the supply of cold and nutrition rich water. Okay, this is the impact on the global level. Now let us understand its impact on the Indian monsoon. So this is basically the Indian Ocean, and from where we get the monsoon? We get the monsoon from the Indian Ocean. Okay, in summers, the equatorial region or the equatorial zone shifted towards the north. So these winds comes and crosses the equator and shift towards the right direction because of the Coriolis force. Okay, so this act as a area which attract the colder air from the Indian Ocean. And in the normal year, as there will be hot water on the coast of the Australia and the upper region of the Australia, it will also attract the air, that is the colder air. So it will enrich the Indian monsoon, and in the El Nino year, this will not be available, and it will be moving away, or it will be removing the air that is coming towards the India and will be hampering the Indian monsoon. Okay, so that is written here that it is associated with the below normal southwest monsoon rainfall. Okay, now let us discuss the PYQs related to this news. So first of all, the PYQ is from the year 2011. The question is, La Nina is suspected to have caused recent flood in Australia. How is La Nina different from El Nino? So very basic question that we have discussed in the news, that also you have to solve and write the answer in the comment section. So first sentence is, La Nina is characterized by unusually cold ocean temperature in the equatorial Indian Ocean, whereas El Nino is characterized by usually warm ocean temperature in the equatorial Pacific Ocean. We have talked about equatorial Pacific Ocean, but we have not talked about the equatorial Indian Ocean when we were discussing the El Nino and La Nina. Then second statement, El Nino has an adverse effect on the southwest monsoon of India, that we have discussed, but La Nina has no effect on monsoon climate. Okay, so now you have to understand and write down its answer in the comment section. This PYQ is from the year 2011. Let us discuss one more PYQ from the year 2017. So the question is, with reference to the Indian Ocean dipole, sometime mentioned in the news while forecasting Indian monsoon, which of the following statement is or correct? 2017, and here basically they are asking about Indian Ocean dipole. So Indian Ocean dipole phenomenon is characterized by a difference in sea surface temperature between tropical Western Indian Ocean and tropical Eastern Pacific Ocean. It is not Eastern Pacific Ocean, it is Eastern Indian Ocean. So first statement is not correct. Second, an IOD phenomenon can influence an El Nino impact on the monsoon. Okay, so the Indian Ocean dipole can hamper or influence the El Nino impact on the monsoon. Okay, so second statement is correct. So answer is B2 only. So in this news, we have learned about the El Nino and La Nina and their impact on the globe as well as on the India. With this, we have completed this news. Let us move to the next news. The next news is about the index of industrial production. And the context here is that there has been revision in the base year for the All India Index of Industrial Production. In this news, we will be learning about the index of industrial production and what are the changes made and why there has been revision in the base year. It is related to paper 3 where syllabus talks about economic development. Let us understand this news in detail. So whenever we calculate growth, we talk about the output. So you might have heard about GDP, gross domestic product. In gross domestic product, we calculate the value of the products. How much output is there in a country in a specific time. About the value of the products. In the index of industrial product, the focus is on the volume of product. How much volume of product are being produced in India? That is how GDP is different from IIP. Please be very clear about basics, then you will understand the economy in a better way. Coming to the development, the Ministry of Statistics and the Program Implementation has revised the base year of IIP from 2011-12 to 2022-23 to reflect the current industrial structure and the dynamic better. And this is the 10th revision of the base year of All India IIP, and the first IIP was prepared by using the base year of 1937. What is this base year and why this is so important? Okay, when you start your preparation, you aim for some time in a day to prepare for your examination. Suppose you have prepared for 16 hours in a day, and then you have assumed that that is my average and I will prepare according to that day. That can hamper your preparation because it is difficult to maintain a 16 hours study on a continuous basis. Okay, so that's why there is a very important aspect that your base, that from which data you want to compare yourself should be very stable. That is the basic meaning of base year. So base year is the average or the base about which we compare the other outputs, and it should be close to the product we are measuring. Suppose you are measuring your preparation for your UPSC to your preparation to your board exam, that will give false result, because the board exam at that time, the requirement for the exam was very different and the requirement for the UPSC is very different. That means with the time there has been change in the dynamics. So that is the basic reason that the base year is revised time and again, and it has brought closer to the measurement we are doing. So presently it has been moved to 2022-23 from 2011 to 12. Now let us understand about basic changes that have been made. First, we have learned that there has been revision in the base year. Second, about the coverage. So there has been addition of one column, that is water supply, sewage and the waste management. And there has been addition of the gas supply as well, along with the electricity. So mining and quarrying was there, manufacturing was there, and electricity column was there. But now gas supply, water supply, sewage and waste management activities have been added. The gas supply have been added with the electricity, and the water supply, sewage and waste management have been added separately. So there has been addition of one more category for the first time. So it is an extreme statement. That's why it becomes very important that water supply, sewerage and waste management have been added in the sectors for the calculation of IIP. Then there has been inclusive mining classification. So it has added the minor minerals and rare earth mineral for the better sectoral representation. So if you have gone through this year paper, you might have observed that there was a question about the rare earth minerals and how they are different from the critical mineral. That question we will be solving after the discussion of this news. The other major changes that have been made in the IIP are the revampation of the item basket. So now the basket have expanded from 839 items to 1042 products. Okay, so there has been increased in the items. Previously there was 839 items, now there are 1042 items. Then there has been addition as well as deletion. So why there has been addition and why there has been deletion? So imagine what were the product you were using in the year 2011 and 12, and what are the products you are using in the year 2022 and 23, and basically at the time of today. How many products have been changed, or what is the increase or decrease in the usage of a particular item? In 2010 or 9, there can be use of the disk, CD disk. Now I don't think many of you might be using the CD disk. So the changes in the usage of the product will lead to addition as well as deletion. Okay, so addition is of cards with the magnetic strips, CCTV cameras, articles of non-movable textile, parts of the aircraft and spacecraft stent, and the vaccine. Here vaccine does not include the vaccine for the veterinary. Then there is deletion as well for the kerosene, fluorescent tubes and CFL, tubes for the bicycles, tricycle and rickshaw tires, and tubes for the LMV tires, light motor vehicles. So mostly now tires are coming tubeless, so now tubes have been removed. Then there have been removal of the printing machinery as well as sewing machinery. You might have seen at your home, at all times there was machine by which the people used to use those machine to bind the cloth and bind the other material, the cloth products, but now they are not present at various homes. Now there has been enhancement in the granularity. And why there has been enhancement? Because there have been allegation over the data provided by the government. Even IMF in its report have alleged that there has been misrepresented or overestimation of the data by the government. So there has been increased in the granularity, and if there have been increased in the granularity, there will be better data. If there is better data, there will be more transparency and more accountability towards that data. Now it provides a more detailed disaggregation of the industrial activities in mining. It covers the fuel minerals, metallic minerals, which include the rare earth minerals, and non-metallic minerals, which include the minor minerals. And the electricity index now separately tracks the generation from the renewable and non-renewable sources, because government is focusing a lot on the non-renewable sources. Not the non-renewable sources, but on the renewable sources. So we are moving towards the renewable sources. That's why there has been a separate tracks for the renewable sources. Now let us discuss the PYQs related to this news. First PYQ is from the prelims examination of the 2012. The question is, in India, the overall index of industrial production, the indices of 8 core industries have combined weight of 37.90. Which of the followings are among those 8 core industries? Okay, so here 5 industries are given. In them, 4 are there in the core industries, which are cement, fertilizer, natural gas and refinery. Textile is not there in the core 8 industries. So answer will be C, 1, 2, 3 and 4 only. In the comment section, please write about the other 4 core industries which are there in the index of industrial production. Okay, now let us discuss one more PYQ from this year, 2026. Question was there from last to in the exam of last to last Sunday, prelims 2026. The question is, which of the following statement about rare earth element and critical mineral is or are correct? First, modern technology innovation including artificial intelligence, robotics and space exploration extensively utilize the rare earth element. So it is a very generic statement. Whenever you read about rare earth element or the critical minerals, you will understand or you will study that they are very important for the upcoming production. So that's, this statement is generic and it is true. Then the second statement, that the China has the highest share in mining of the rare earth element, followed by India. Okay, let us keep that aside. Although it's a very factual question, let us keep this question for solving again. That's this statement. Then third statement, the government of India launched the National Critical Mineral Mission in 2025 to establish a robust framework for the self-reliance in the critical mineral sector. If you know a little bit about National Critical Mineral Mission, you will know that its objective was the self-reliance. So this is also an correct statement. So 1 and 3 are correct. So answer can be A or answer can be C. B cannot be answer. And D can also not be the answer. Fourth statement, rare earth element are set of 13 metallic elements. Is it correct or wrong? Rare earth element contain 17 element, not 13. So 4 is also not correct statement. So answer will be A. Second is also incorrect. India is not at the second place. Okay. So the answer for this is A, 1 and 3 only. Now let us move to the next question, news. The next main news is about the ecological importance of the Aravalli Range. Here we will be learning about the dust storm and the importance of the Aravalli Range and the other aspect of the Aravalli Range. It is related to paper 2, where syllabus talks about the physical geography. Let us discuss this news and understand what are the aspects that we have to cover from this news. First of all, the development. You might have seen and studied about the massive dust storm in the part of Rajasthan highlighted the ecological importance of the Aravalli Range. Let us first understand about this dust storm. So we are in the month of May and June, when the sun is directly above our earth's surface, the western part of India. Okay, so if sun is directly above the Thar desert or this region, then it will become hot. Here there is the desert in the Pakistan side as well, in the Indian side as well, and when there will be direct sunlight, it will lead to heat up. When there will be lot of heat, that will lead to heating of the air as well. And when air get heats up, it expand, and when it get expand, it become lighter, and anything which is light, which will go to the upside. So here, as air will move towards upside, there will be a intense low pressure. And if you know about winds move away from high pressure to low pressure. So wind will try to cover up this area and cover up this low surface area, not low surface, low pressure area. So wind will come from all the direction and fill this area. And while they will coming to this place, they will pick up the dust particle or the sand particle as they are moving in the desert, and that will lead to the dust storm. So here it is very simple, that sun is heating up of the earth, and here it is the western area of India where there is Thar desert, and it is leading up to the movement of the air towards the up, that is leaving a low pressure area at the surface, and that low surface area will be filled up by the air which will be coming from the all the direction, and when the air will be coming, it will pick up the sand particles from the desert, that will lead to dust storm. That is the basic phenomena that is given here. So this storm has been caused by the western disturbance that brought a high speed winds and upward surge of a hot air due to the heating in the western Rajasthan. So this year western disturbance has not gone completely. That's why you might have seen the rains, unevenly rains before the monsoon, and there is high dust storms as well. And the Aravallis act as a natural barrier between the Thar desert and the Indo-Gangetic plain, that we will be learning in the next slide. Now let us understand about the Aravalli Range and their importance. So their geographical importance. So basically they are world oldest fold mountain, one of the world oldest fold mountain. How fold mountains are formed? When two continental plates come together, there will be fold mountains, and these are old fold mountains. That means they are folded at a very long time, before a very long time. When we talk about Himalayas, they are new fold mountain. These are old fold mountain. Fold mountains are formed when two continental plates converge with one another. Okay, these are one of the world oldest fold mountain, and they extend from Gujarat to Delhi. Okay, and they are barrier against the desertification. So Thar desert is there here, and we have the Ganga plain here. So they act a barrier so that this desert does not pass towards the Ganga plain. Then they have ecological importance as well. You might have heard a lot of tiger reserve, wildlife sanctuaries in the Aravallis, and they are rich with the forest as well. Then there is hydrological importance as well, because many rivers such as Sabarmati, Luni and Banas originate from the Aravallis, and they act the watershed for these rivers. Then there is economical and the cultural importance as well. What is the economical importance? Because there is a lot of mining in these areas, as well as they are support the agriculture and the livestock as well. Then there is cultural importance as well. You might have heard about the Kumbhalgarh fort. You might have heard about Ranakpur temples, Jain temples in this region. So there is the cultural importance as well. Now let us discuss the measure to protect the Aravallis, because they are under the threat because of the mining, overgrazing, shift of the land for the agriculture, and due to other development project, there have been hampering over the Aravallis. And you might have heard about the case in the recent past where Supreme Court has defined a particular region of the Aravallis, that how Aravallis can be defined. That was the issue which was going on in the news in the month of January and February. So here we are talking about the measures to protect the Aravallis, what measures government have taken. So risk, there is a risk of mining, there is risk of overgrazing, there is risk of the shifting of the forest land for the agriculture and for the industries and for the other infrastructure project that is hampering the Aravallis. And basically the most important reason for hampering the Aravallis is the illegal mining. Okay, so what are the measures to protect the Aravallis? First one is Aravalli Green Wall Initiative. One, here this is the Aravalli's Green Wall Initiative, and you might have also read about the Great Green Wall Initiative. Please write down in the comment section for what Great Green Wall Initiative is there. Aravalli's Green Wall Initiative is there to protect the Aravallis. You have to write in the comment section what is Great Green Wall Initiative and where it is. Okay, in which continent it is. It is also important for your prelims examination. So here we are talking about the measures to protect the Aravallis, and first measure is the Aravalli's Green Wall Initiative. It is a large scale restoration program by Ministry of Environment, Forest and the Climate Change, focusing on afforestation, grassland restoration and the wetland restoration. As there has been destruction of the trees, there has been destruction of the grassland due to overgrazing, there has been destruction of the wetland and the other areas. So Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change is focusing on the restoration of the afforestation by the afforestation, greenland restoration as well as wetland restoration through the program of Aravalli's Green Wall Initiative. Then there is control on mining. We have learned that there is a lot of illegal mining in the Aravallis. So for controlling the mining, there is strict regulation of illegal mining and encroachment along with the enforcement of the Supreme Court directive. Okay, so Supreme Court have given various directives so that there is no illegal mining in the Aravallis region. Then there is soil conservation. So there has been construction of check dam, contour trenches and the rainwater harvesting structure. So these are the measures to protect the Aravallis. Let us discuss one PYQ related to this news. The PYQ is not directly related, it is indirectly related to this news. The question is, the most significant achievement of the modern law in India is the constitutionalization of environmental problem by the Supreme Court. Discuss this statement with the help of relevant case law. So you have to discuss this statement and you have to talk about various cases of the Supreme Court. It might be Goda Varman case, or it might be the other cases where government have talked about, not the government, the Supreme Court have talked about the protection of the environment. Here you can also talk about the directives which are given by the Supreme Court to protect the illegal mining or to remove the illegal mining from the Aravallis. So this is the demand of this question. With this, we have completed this news. Now let us move to the last main news for today. The last main news for today is about the state fiscal health. And the context here is that the Kerala has tabled a white paper on the state fiscal health as the debt had crossed 5 lakh crore rupees, which is a major concern. And it is related to paper 3 where syllabus talks about government budgeting. In this news, we will be learning about issues of the rising debt in the state, as well as what are the reason and what can be the way forward. Then we will be discussing PYQs related to this news. So before starting of the discussion of this news, whenever we want to examine the state fiscal health, we can look at 3 criterias. One is capital outlay in the expenditure. Second is committed expenditure. Third is interest payment. If capital outlay is high, that means the government is focusing more on formation of capital goods which will be leaving or which will be returning with the better returns. It is a positive side if capital outlay is high. Then committed expenditure, basically committed expenditure is the expenditure which government have to make in whatever condition it is. So this includes salaries, it include pension, it include the interest payment. If committed expenditure is higher, that means the fiscal health of the state is in the bad state. Okay, then the interest payment. If interest payment is higher, that means the government is there in a lot of debt. So these criterias can be used to know about the fiscal health of a state. Now let us discuss about the development. So development is that the Kerala faces a outstanding liabilities of 5 lakh crore rupees crore with committed expenditure absorbing 77% of the revenue expenditure. Suppose Kerala is getting 100 rupees in revenue. In that 77 rupees is going for the committed expenditure. So then government is only left with the 23% that can be expended elsewhere. That also include the development project or the capital outlay. Okay, so that is the issue here. Let us discuss about the debt crisis of the Indian state. Here we will be discussing a lot about the specific data. So here data is very important for your paper 3 because data and examples are required to substantiate your answer in paper 3 and to increase the specificity of the answers in the paper 3. First, now the state government now account for nearly 1/3 of the India's general government debt. So here government debt means the debt of the central and the state government. So now this statement is saying that the state governments now account for around 1/3 of the India's general government debt. And some of the states such as Punjab, West Bengal, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh faces the persistent revenue and fiscal deficit. What is revenue deficit? Total revenue expenditure minus total revenue receipt. What is fiscal deficit? Total expenditure of the government minus the total receipt of the government. And if they are continuously high, that means the state government is moving towards the debt. And it has led to elevated debt level, that is 35 to 45% of the state GDP, and high interest burden. As the debt will be rising, there will be the increase in the interest burden. And according to the RBI, Indian state consolidate gross fiscal deficit have increased to 3.3 of the GDP. So these are the data given related to debt crisis. Now let us understand about the key drivers of the rising state debt. First is populistic measures. You might have heard about free electricity, free bus ride, free money. So these types of populistic measures is leading to the debt rise in the state. Second is the committed expenditure. Okay, so salaries, pension and interest rate, if they consume around 50 to 60% of revenue receipt, which will lead to crowding out of the capital investment. Okay, this year there was a question about the crowding out effect that we will understand when we will discuss the PYQ. So states such as Kerala faces a aging population and raising pension and the healthcare cost. Okay, recently there was a news that the total fertility rate is below the replacement rate. Replacement rate is 2.1. That is number of children given by a woman in her life. If that is 2.1, that is the replacement rate. But the southern state, their total fertility rate is ranging between 1.4 to 1.8. That is way below the replacement rate. Okay, so that means the population is declining in the southern state, that is Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and the Telangana. Okay, and there is revenue weaknesses as well because state government are heavily relying on the central GST devolution, as well as there has been sluggish growth in their own tax revenue. And then there are other factors as well, because they are moving towards the off budget borrowings. And what is this off budget borrowing? Basically the borrowing taken by the uh, public institutions of the government, and that debt is not included in the FRBM. So they cross the FRBM limits by using the off-budget borrowings. And there was the emergency loans during the COVID era, as well as there has been increase in the borrowing cost due to increase in the higher premium. So these are the reason for rising of the state debt. Now let us discuss about the solution for the situation of the high debt. Okay, so first one is enforcing the macro prudential caps. So there should be a cap. You might be knowing about the net borrowing ceiling. So what it is? So under Article 293 of Indian Constitution, center can limit the borrowing limit of a state. Okay, that is called net borrowing ceiling. Okay, that should be closely monitored and followed. Then there should be broadening of the own tax revenue, so that there is increase in the income source of the state, and it will increase by expanding the local tax bases, ensuring the higher GST compliance, and optimizing the non-tax revenue collection. Then there should be focus on rationalizing the public utility tariff. Public utility tariff means the bill from the water, bill from the electricity. There should be rationalization and proper implementation, so that government can target this revenue. Then there should be refinement of the welfare delivery, and government can use the DBT model, direct benefit transfer model, so that there is less leakage and there is more transparency and accountability. So these are the way forward for the debt crisis solution in the state. Now let us discuss the PYQs from this year 2026, which is related to this news. So the question is from the prelims 2026. Question is, which one of the following best describe the crowding out effect in the context of the fiscal policy? So basically this is market. Suppose it has 100 rupees and government has taken 80 rupees from it. So then only 20 rupees has left for the private players. And as private players are higher, money is low in the market, it will lead to the increase in the income or the loan for the private players. If government takes a lot of money from the market, that will crowd out the private players. So answer for this is a situation where government borrowing leads to the higher interest rate, which reduce the private investment. Because if private players are only reaching to the 20%, that will automatically lead to the increase in the interest rate. And if interest rate is high, then all the private players cannot take the money and cannot invest in the market. That is the answer for this. Now let us discuss two more PYQ from the year 2025. This is from 2025 and this is also from 2025. That means from the last year prelims examination. Question 61. Suppose the revenue expenditure is 80,000 crores and the revenue receipt of the government are 60,000 crores. The government budget also shows a borrowing of 10,000 crore rupees and interest payment of 6,000 crore rupees. Which of the following statements are correct? Revenue receipt is 20,000 crores. Revenue receipt is the revenue expenditure minus the revenue receipt, that is 80,000 minus 60,000, that is 20,000 crores. Second, fiscal deficit is 10,000 crore. Fiscal deficit here will be the total borrowing of the government, that is 10,000 crore. So this is also correct. Primary deficit is fiscal deficit minus the interest payment, that will be 4,000 crore. So answer would be D, 1, 2 and 3. On the same concept, there was one more question in the year 2025. The question is, a country fiscal deficit stand at 50,000 crore. It is receiving 10,000 crores through a non-debt creating capital receipt. The country's interest liabilities are 1,500 crore. What is the gross primary deficit? We have already discussed about the primary deficit. So you can solve this question. It is the same concept that is applied here, that can be applied here. So please try to solve this question and write down the answer in the comment section. Okay, let us move to the next news, and next news is the place in news. And today's place in news is Zimbabwe. And the context here is that the India and Zimbabwe has reaffirmed the commitment to deepen the bilateral defense cooperation during the inaugural Joint Defense Committee meeting. So the context is not that important, but we should be aware about the geographical features of this country. That is the main aspect we cover in the place in news. And if you look at this year prelims examination, there was a question about Lake Turkana. That means UPSC is focusing on the various geographical feature of the Africa. Okay, so first, that Zimbabwe is a landlocked country in the southern Africa. So it does not share border with the ocean, or it does not have a direct connection to the ocean, and it share boundaries with South Africa in the south, Botswana here, then there is Zambia here, then there is Mozambique here. Okay, so it share border with South Africa, Botswana, Zambia, Mozambique. Okay, so these are its borders: Zambia, Mozambique, South Africa, and Botswana. Then it have a wild grassland, which is a tropical savanna kind of grassland. Then major river, that is Zambezi, Limpopo, and Sabi. In one of the previous year UPSC prelims examination, they have asked about the Zambezi river in one of the option. The question was, does it flow to the Indian Ocean? That was the question, and it was correctly matched. And here there is Victoria Falls as well. That is also very beautiful site. And then there is a lake, Lake Kariba. This is here. Lake Kariba is here, and it is world's largest artificial lake and reservoir by the volume. Very extreme statement. That's why it become an important fact for your prelims examination. And the natural resources here are coal, chromium oil, vanadium, lithium, tin, platinum, etc. So with this, we have completed the main news as well as the place in news for today. Now we will discuss the quick update. The first quick update is about the Chief of Defense Staff. Last year, UPSC have asked about the role of the Chief of Defense of Staff. That's why it is important, because it is often seen that UPSC follow certain themes in its prelims examination. So the context of the news is that the General N.S. Raja Subramani have assumed the charge of the third Chief of Defense and Secretary, Department of Military Affairs. Here we will be knowing about Chief of Defense Staff. So its genesis, the post of CDS, was created in 2019 on the recommendation of group of ministries in 2001, based on the 1999 Kargil Review Committee report. So basically this report said that there was sometime issue of coordination between the three forces of India, that is Navy, Air Force, and the Army. So they said, or they recommended about a post, that is Chief of Defense Staff, okay, CDS. And what are the major function of the CDS? It heads the Department of Military Affairs. It is permanent chairman of Chief of Staff Committee, principal military advisor to the Defense Minister, and promote the jointness among the three armed forces, that is Army, Navy, and Air Force, and oversees the defense planning, acquisition, and military reforms. And he is responsible for creating joint and theater command. So these are the basic function of CDS that was asked in the UPSC examination as well. Now let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about isobutanol. Okay, you might be knowing about ethanol. Ethanol is mixed with the petrol. Ethanol cannot be mixed with the diesel, because the diesel engine there is ignition due to compression. In the petrol engine there is ignition due to spark plug. If you have a background of mechanical engineering, you will understand that in petrol engines there is ignition due to spark plug. The ignition is provided from the outside, and in diesel engine there is ignition due to the compression of the fuel. That's why ethanol cannot be used in mixing with the diesel. Here isobutanol can be mixed. And why isobutanol can be mixed, that we will be understanding here. First of all, isobutanol is a 4-carbon alcohol, making is a higher alcohol compared to the ethanol, which contain only 2 carbon atom. Secondly, can be produced from renewable sources like biomass, agriculture waste. Similarly, ethanol can be also produced from these products. Then its use, it is an industrial solvent in products like paint, coating, potential biofuel for the transportation. Then it is suitability in blending with diesel. Why it is suitable to blend with the diesel? Because it blend uniformly with any additional additives. Then higher energy content, so its energy content is higher than the ethanol and somewhat similar to the diesel. When there will be compression, there will be the burning. Then it is less volatile and corrosive, offering higher compatibility with existing engine and fuel infrastructure. The usage of diesel in India is more than double of the petrol. More of the big vehicles uses the diesel, and if we can mix the isobutanol, that will reduce our dependence on the import of the crude oil. So that is the basic aspect in this news. So here you should be knowing about isobutanol and how it is different from ethanol. The next quick update is about the Agastya Malai Biosphere Reserve. It is on the name of Sage Agastya. Okay, you might have read about Sage Agastya in your ancient history book. Okay, so it is on the name of Sage Agastya. The context here is that the Supreme Court has ordered immediate removal of encroacher and demolition of illegal structure across the Agastya Malai landscape. Basically, Agastya Malai Biosphere Reserve is a biosphere reserve under MAP program of UNESCO, and it was categorized or put under that category in the year 2016. And there was a UPSC question in the year 2018 about this biosphere reserve directly, and the question was about the wildlife sanctuaries which were there or which are there under the Agastya Malai Biosphere Reserve. So basically, if you are reading about Biosphere Reserve, you should know about the wildlife sanctuaries and the national parks or the tiger reserve in that Biosphere Reserve. You should know about the river, you should know about the flora, fauna in that Biosphere Reserve, and you should also know about the tribes which are living in that Biosphere Reserve. In Agastya Malai Biosphere Reserve, Kani tribes lives. Okay, so now let us understand. It is located in the southern western Ghat in the Tamil Nadu and the Kerala. It was included in the World Network of the Biosphere Reserve under the UNESCO Man and Biosphere Reserve in the year 2016. And the reserve include 3 wildlife sanctuaries, that is Sendunai, Pampara and Nayar, as well as Kalakkad Muntanturai Tiger Reserve. Okay, so this was about Agastya Malai Biosphere Reserve. Let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about peatland. Okay. In the year 2024, UPSC have asked about the tropical peatland. Which region has the highest tropical peatland? That is Congo Basin. Okay, there was Amazon Basin as well, which was the confusion in that question, but the answer for that question was Congo Basin. So Congo Basin has the highest peatland in the tropical region. That was the question in the year 2024 prelims examination. So here the context is that about the peatland is that on the World Peatland Day, that is on the 2nd June, the Food and Agriculture Organization have highlighted the critical role of peatland. Here we will be knowing about the peatland and what are their functions. So basically peatlands are the waterlogged wetland ecosystem formed by the partially decomposed organic matters. So the organic matters are not totally composed, and that is due to the waterlogged condition, and it includes bogs, fens, mires and swamps. And what is the major function of the peatland? They cover only 3 to 4% of the earth land surface, but store nearly 30% of the global soil carbon. Then they also plays an important role in the carbon sink. That is, they hold twice the carbon stock of the world entire forest biomass, because the organic matter is not totally composed. Okay, they regulate climate, water flow, reduce flood, drought and support the biodiversity in that region, and they are very rich in the biodiversity. Degradation of peatland releases the significant greenhouse gas emission and undermines the ecosystem services of the peatland. Okay, so this is the information about the peatland. Now let us move to the next news. The next news is about the biomimicry. Here you should be knowing about the definition of biomimicry and what are its example. Context here is that the biomimicry offers a framework to shift from replication to innovation using the natural principle. Let us first understand what is the meaning of biomimicry. Basically, it is practice of learning from and emulating the nature design processes and system to solve the human problem and create a sustainable innovation. Basically, when we see all around us, there are a lot of natural solution or natural innovation that we see that can be applied to human line. For example, the kingfisher beak design. Okay, when Japan designed their Shinkansen trains, they was facing a difficulty of the drag, as well as when this train was going into the tunnel, it was producing a lot of sound. But then they have seen the design of the kingfisher beak design, and they have replicated that, and then there was the reduction in the problem. Then there is a usage in architecture and energy as well, such as Zimbabwe East Gate Center mimic the termite mounds. So basically these mounds are very good in ventilation, and if that is followed here, there is high ventilation and the energy required to cool down this infrastructure is very low. Then there is material science usage as well, such as lotus leaves inspired self-cleaning water repellent paint and fabric. If you see the lotus flower or the lotus leaves, you will see that they are water repellent. So that characteristic is used to make the water repellent paints and fabrics. Let us move to the next news. The next news is about the Indus Water Treaty, and the context is that the Pakistan have accused of India of violating the Indus Water Treaty, as India planned to divert water from Chenab to the Beas River. Here you should be knowing about the Indus Water Treaty, when it was signed, what are the rivers which are covered under it, and what is the dispute resolution mechanism. First of all, it was signed in 1960 between India and Pakistan, which was mediated by the World Bank, and World Bank is also a signatory in the Indus Water Treaty. Then it governs the sharing of the water from the Indus Basin river, that is Satluj, Beas and Ravi, that are known as eastern rivers, and the Indus, Jhelum and Chenab, they are known as the western rivers. India have an unrestricted right over the eastern rivers that include the Satluj, Beas and Ravi, while the western rivers are largely reserved for Pakistan, but some of the water can be used by the India for the various purposes. And there is a dispute resolution mechanism as well. First is permanent Indus commissioners are there, then there is neutral expert which are appointed by the World Bank, then there is court of arbitration for the unresolved dispute. So this is about the Indus Water Treaty. Now the next quick update and the last quick update for today is the James Webb Space Telescope. Okay, and the context here is that the NASA's James Webb Space Telescope has detected the methane on interstellar comet 3I Atlas for the first time. Here we will be understanding about this telescope. So it is a successor to the Hubble Space Telescope designed to explore the universe origin by studying the formation of star, planets and the earliest galaxies. And it is an international partnership between NASA, European Space Agency and the Canadian Space Agency, and it is observe the universe in the infrared spectrum. Okay, you should be knowing about the various electromagnetic radiation. Okay, if you see here, there will be visible light, there will be infrared, there will be the microwaves and radio waves here. Then here there will be UV rays, there will be X-rays and there will be gamma rays. Okay, you should be knowing about their function and their usage as well. Then it was launched in the year 2021 and it orbit the Lagrange point 2, that is 1.5 kilometer from the Earth. Okay, there are 5 Lagrange point. On Lagrange point 1 L1, Aditya L1 is there, and James Webb Space Telescope is there on Lagrange point 2 L2. Okay, so with this we have completed today's session, and if you want to read further the various current affairs, that is monthly current affairs or the other current affairs of the Vision IAS, or you want to solve the smart quizzes, you can visit the digital current affairs website of us. Thank you and all the best for your preparation.